Live.
We're live?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me put one final tweet out. Yes, we are live. Are we live?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yes, we are. Hello, hello, hello. Namaskar, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining in for one more live satsang. This is number 31, but like we are also counting very randomly. I can see that some frequent flyers are here already. Prachi is here. Ane is here. Sahil is here. Kya baat hai? Please do like the stream if you haven't already, and we'll get a move on. I want to start the stream by thanking people who came out to my show in Ahmedabad on Sunday. It was short notice, but you guys made it, and it was a great show. Next up this weekend, me and Rajora finally doing the show that we had been talking about. Starts with Mumbai, is looking good, is almost full. Sunday is Pune, and then Delhi and Chandigarh next month. I don't know why we are doing Chandigarh. Chandigarh doesn't need satire, it needs more Lamborghinis, but I'm sure we can have enough people to do a show. That's happening this weekend. Besides, you guys would have heard about my special, which is being shot in Bangalore on 21st of September. Please do come. This is the very last time I'm doing this show. If we cannot shoot it for some reason, I'm going to drop the show altogether. But do come. It's on the 21st of September. Do we have a live show also, JB? Online show?
हाँ है अपना ऑनलाइन शो
अभी है
8 सितंबर को।
8
8
सितंबर
सितंबर।
ओके।
यस।
तो उसका लिंक भी इसी में है जो अपन डाले डिस्क्रिप्शन में।
करेक्ट।
ओके सो फॉर पीपल हु कांट कम इन पर्सन online show No Sooner the Bunker happens the very last time on 8th of September, and we've gone back to 9 p.m. because I think that's the time most of you prefer on a weekend. 9 p.m. IST. That's the time. Akshay is here. Great to see familiar faces in the chat. Ekta is here all the way from Europe. Uh, the dude is here. Okay. या नमस्कार नमस्कार तो एक बार सी एफ बी आर का नारा लगाएं ताकि हम शो आगे बढ़ाएं इस it's very intense times in the country right now. The latest I heard is the double hanging case in UP is also turned out to be another Hathras where both the victims' bodies have been forcefully cremated by the police after denying charges of assault earlier. So one thing is clear that the establishment clearly believes that their core voter base doesn't believe in women's safety at all. Uh, Another good news is that President Madam has finally woken up and said कि ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. A few years late, but ठीक है. At least she said something. Um, in this environment, when I see people who are still at it, no, after years of fighting the good fight, I'm inspired, but I'm also bewildered how people do it. No? So while we're preparing for this live today with our guest who's going to be here for the first time, I realized that having followed the work of alt news for years and having shared it, having admired it, it never occurred to me that I should fucking contribute myself. So I did it yesterday. They are looking for the simplest of contribution, which is 500 a month for a year, and they just need 3,000 such patrons. And how difficult you would think it would be to find that, बट इट इज डिफिकल्ट क्योंकि भीड़ बहुत है ऑनलाइन लेकिन असली ग्राहक बहुत कम है आई डन माई बिट आई वुड अर्ज यू गाइस टू डू योर्स एज वेल आई एम श्योर सम ऑफ यू हैव डन इट ऑलरेडी because if you follow any of my work it would be fair to assume that you know of the great work that all news have done over the years as well. The link to the donation page is in the description of this video if you can check it out. Um, Fake news is I mean to say that it's an epidemic would be an understatement, and there are so many questions in my mind. So I think we should get right to it. And with a virtual round of applause, please welcome to our satsang for the very first time, Mr. Pratik Sinha. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Puneet.
Hi, Pratik. Thank you for
Hi,
coming, for
hi,
taking the
hi.
time out. Uh, I was straight off the bat. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you do to keep your sanity? Is in the midst of all the noise that is there, no? And you are at the forefront of making sense of some of the noise as well. So it's inevitable that you sort of face a lot of, let's say, unsavory comments and otherwise online.
No, you would think that it is the trolling which affects the more. Trolling doesn't affect really. After a point of time, you develop
Mm,
a thick skin. And it doesn't matter who some random online person
mm,
is, what they're saying about you. I mean, the most common criticism that they level at me is bitakle, bitakle, bitakle. I'm like,
mm.
so, so, so that doesn't really matter. I
Yeah,
think and what sort of affects is the amount of violence that we look at every day. So for
yeah,
example,
yeah,
uh, like we often come in when there are riots happening, when there's violence happening, and then there are people who have died. So then to look at those kind of videos, and we don't look at it once, we look at it again and again to find a clue. And this
mm,
is not just me, this is actually more my colleagues now, and who are much younger than me, who
yeah,
are in their early 20s, and they have to look at
mm,
it again and again and again, and I
yeah,
also do it. And I think that is what takes more of a toll. It is to look
yeah,
at sort of the dark side of the world. It's not
yeah.
trolling is, yeah, I mean, it is there, and I think Zubair faces a lot more
Lot
of it,
more.
much
Yeah.
much more. And I am also not that active on Twitter anymore. I
Mm,
mean, I used to be
mm,
very very active, but
mm,
the past year and a half, I my the stories go out on my handle, but
mm,
I don't personally tweet as much. So, and
mm, mm.
yeah, but in any case, yeah, it doesn't matter anymore, what people say online. As in, one figures out a way of looking at criticism, that what is valid criticism and what criticism is not valid. And anything which starts in a tone where they're trying to sort of put you down, it is very easy to figure out what is genuine criticism and what is not. So
Yeah, yeah. So, to give our viewers an idea, like, with the Kolkata case, women's safety is in the limelight, so you automatically see more cases being reported. But they are always happening, right? The volume is insanely high of just the reported cases. Actual तो अपने को
yeah,
पता भी नहीं है.
yeah.
So, does that make us one of the most violent countries in the world? Would you say that? Or that would need
No,
more
that would
numbers as
need some data to be spoken about.
well?
That we definitely have higher amounts of violence, but are we one of the most violent countries?
Mm,
We don't know. But are
mm,
we one of the countries who use misinformation the most strategically and vehemently as a tool, as a political tool? I'll say that we are right up there in one of the few countries where that every issue, every
yeah,
narrative is twisted and turned using
yeah.
misinformation, and the most vile kind of misinformation that hurts people. For example, this Arjikar issue.
Mm,
Now, uh, so for example, this morning we were looking at, I wouldn't name the person because that is an actual person, but some
mm,
doctor being claimed, woman doctor being claimed that, oh, the the post said that she was the one who held the victim's hand while while the crime being was happening.
mm,
And then it just took us, sir, that found her profile on LinkedIn. She was an intern in the hospital 3 years ago. She works in a completely different hospital, but because she had a Muslim name, her name was put in that, oh, this was a person who was holding the victim down when the crime was being committed.
mm,
So and then I saw her LinkedIn profile. Obviously, I could find her LinkedIn profile. Many other people have found her LinkedIn profile. And this person who's got nothing to do with any of this, there were men, especially in her comment section, giving the most, giving rape threats, giving the most vile threats.
yeah,
So, and this, multiple people have been falsely named, for example, students, interns, etc. And for them, it's trauma of a different kind.
yeah,
They are afraid to even step out of home. Everybody's questioning, were you part of it? Were you part of it? And this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what misinformation is, how it is affecting people's lives, how it is. we saw during Tablighi Jamaat, for example, that
Mm.
incident where the Muslim community en masse was painted as someone who's deliberately spreading COVID. And that was a time when we saw that in the shortest period of time from this allegation being made, Muslims were actually being attacked on the streets. For example, vegetable
Yeah,
vendors, fruit vendors, they were not being
yeah,
allowed into colonies. So we saw a
yeah.
lot of that as well. So yeah, I can't comment on whether we are the most violent state or not, but we are definitely, the violence that we ensure that a huge section of the society faces through misinformation. We are right there on the top.
We have the best practices in place for misinformation. When you started or you founded Alt News, was there any other direction you were considering and then you shifted to this, or was it always on your mind for a few years, maybe before that, that this is the area, say in journalism or in activism, whichever way you look at it, that
Not
these
a
two
few
like,
years, few months. So misinformation was
mm,
something I was already debunking since 2013, 2014. I was running a website called Truth of Gujarat.
acha,
This and So I was debunking some misinformation there. But
mm,
it is, I think, in September 2016, Zubair and I were already friends at that point of time.
mm,
When he was working with Nokia, and I had a full time job as in a consultant, a software consultant. I was working with a US company. But in, I think, August 2016, I walked 10 days in the Una March. This is when four Dalit boys were flogged in Una in Gujarat,
mm,
and
mm,
Jignesh Mewani sort of led that march, but I was
yeah,
also part of the march. I was documenting the march, and
mm,
uh, uh, when I came back after that, then Zubair and I met, and I told him that, look, we anyway indulging sort of we are always busy with public affairs, and we are talking about it, we are writing about it. Why not do it in a more organized manner?
mm,
So the in the initial concept note, bullet point one said debunk misinformation. Bullet point two said report on people's struggles. So because I had just come back from Una Rally, which for the first 5-7 days, only one mainstream media newspaper, Hindustan Times, had covered it.
yeah,
No one else had covered it. So at
yeah,
that point of time, I thought that there must be so many protests and struggles that are happening around the country. It's just that we don't know about it. So
yeah,
one should document it. But we did not end up doing that because that needed funds. That needed someone to understand the local language. So it
mm,
needed a much bigger infrastructure.
yeah.
So then we started off with debunking misinformation, and we gained some prominence quite quickly. So we just stuck to that, and we became better at that as time went on.
This is a very new kind of beast. No, this is something that you wouldn't have seen even growing up when your father was active, say in Gujarat or even elsewhere. No, in say the social sphere. This was not the case before 2014, right? Or if at all, it would have been very, very beginning.
As in the trend of misinformation,
Yeah, yeah.
I would say 2012 onwards, 2011, 2012.
Mm,
Basically, the time when I think there are 2, 3 phases of when misinformation has jumped. The time, and it is very, very much linked to the mobile speeds. The time when it became easy to exchange images, when we had enough bandwidth, when we went from text to images. So images gave the first.
mm,
Sort of convenient way of putting out misinformation. So, for example,
yeah.
in 2012, one of the earliest pieces of misinformation that I remember that I had looked at was a BRT claiming that this is BRTS bus stand in Ahmedabad, but actually there was a bus stand somewhere in Taiwan. Uh,
Yeah.
the next jump came in 2016 when Geo came about, and Geo promised 2 GB of free data, and then every other telecom operator, in order to compete, also sort of gave such offers, and then uh, video became easy. So it was 2016 when the misinformation went into the domain of videos. It was already there in images, then it went into the domain of videos,
Mm, mm.
and then I think the next jump came when live streaming, etc., came. So Sushant Singh Rajput is the classic case
Ah,
where live streaming, etc., was used to put out continuous misinformation, where it was not just bits and bobs like one image, one video, but it was just a continuous stream of misinformation which was put out for hours and hours. So there have been different phases in terms of how misinformation has grown in India and worldwide.
And like with Sushant Singh, then people learn. No, when something works, then people pick up on it. And from probably the views that they're getting or the engagement that they're getting.
Yeah, both from a financial point of view and from a for politicians from a narrative point of view. So, for example, just today, UP government has put out the circular, right? That
Yeah,
that people can get up to 8 lakhs
yeah,
for. Why? Because my reading of this is that they are increasingly seeing that their investment in mainstream media to propagate them is not failing anywhere. Mainstream media has lost its credibility, so
yeah,
now they're looking for newer faces and newer voices to do the propaganda.
yeah, yeah. You think I haven't followed the numbers. Have TRPs also fallen, or then those are managed numbers, so you can never tell for news channels for the
I
last year?
haven't followed. I haven't followed, but I definitely feel that fewer people watch news. Much more fewer people watch news. I mean, how many news videos do you see going viral? So, for example, when Arnab Goswami first came up with Republic, you would see his videos going viral everywhere. When was the last time you saw an Arnab Goswami video go viral? It is not happening. When is the last time you saw a Navika Kumar video go viral?
Yeah,
It so just from that point of view, you can even Sudhir Chaudhary videos are not going viral anymore. So
yeah, yeah. And
you
it's
know
not like they're not trying. Arnab at least is trying every day. So,
yeah, but it is not there on social media. So overall, their reach is definitely reduced. If you look at the views that all these channels are getting on YouTube, for example,
yeah,
it's negligible.
it is abysmally low.
Yeah,
In fact, even BJP's own channels
yeah,
is completely tanked.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You think that the theory that online creators have definitely had an impact on the election results is more or less true, right?
I do believe it is true.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
believe that, uh, and that is why, as soon as they came into power, they tried to bring in the broadcasters bill, where they had this special section. So
yeah.
I definitely do believe that online creators had a considerable impact in this election. The thing is, it is very difficult to figure out quantitatively. I mean,
Sure.
at the end of the day, people were unhappy, right? People were
Yeah,
unhappy, and that is what the elections have shown. I feel that many of us have been taken by surprise, also because there's nobody reporting the unhappiness. There was nobody telling us that people are unhappy. It's only when finally when elections arrived and people had to go to the ground, and they're like, oops, people are unhappy. Because till then, even till February, people were just sitting in the studios and saying, oh, ye opinion
yeah,
poll aa raha hai, ye aa raha hai, sab kuch, 400 par and all of that. It's only when
yeah.
finally they went to the ground and they're like, oh, things look very, very different.
So this is definitely an example of totally being in an ivory tower of sorts. No?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that is what happens when you want to control every form of media. And here we are talking about complete control. The only form where they could not control was the independent creators. But you look
Yeah,
at mainstream media, even sort of WhatsApp, even though it is chronological in nature, but you just pump in so much money that the amount of content that floods your WhatsApp
yeah,
is more of one kind. Then OTT, they control,
yeah.
all the movies that were coming out on OTT. They were ensuring that certain movies cannot come out. They were ensuring that some movies
Do come out. Yeah,
do come out. Even popular actors were doing propaganda movies. So
yeah.
literally they had almost out of 360 or 340-degree control on the media. That 20% which was not there, which it turned out to be the
Yeah.
nemesis.
Yeah, and broadcast bill seemed to be their sort of Ramban Upay for that. But for
Yeah.
now, it seems to have, although what Yogi is doing is sort of like a small broadcast bill of his own.
Yeah, so instead of controlling, who can publish, you now just put in money and say, "Oh, publish for us." Because in any case, the YouTube medium, and this is my criticism of YouTube medium, that is, I feel that it is when views are connected to money, that the more views you get, the more money you get. I think that is a very, very dangerous model,
Hmm.
because views does not define quality. Views,
At all. Yeah.
and when you connect these two, then in fact it is usually the other way around. That is, you create more and more bad content to in order to get views. And you
Yeah.
put more and more misinformation, more and more, you know,
Yeah.
like this. Every rumor which was there in this RG case has been, YouTube creators have put out those rumors
Yeah. Yeah.
without checking, saying that, oh, alleged. तो सब लोगों ने किया है ये.
Including the very details of the victim, which were contrary to the postmortem, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
your team, of course, is trained, not to put out certain things unless they corroborate with the reports
No,
and with.
we are not also in the space of reporting news, right? So
Hmm.
uh, for those who are reporting news, it is definitely a tough job. We are in the space of verification,
Hmm.
but when you're reporting and there's so much pressure to report as things come out,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
how do you verify? But that is the training that journalists are supposed to have. That is,
Yeah.
you do not do that. But there's just so much pressure to, and there's so many outlets, so much competition. Also, we should not forget that that platforms like Facebook, YouTube, etc., which are the algorithms are sort of bump you up if you put out more content, and they
Absolutely.
encourage
Yeah.
they encourage you to put more and more content. So that also forces them to create more content, keep producing more content. And then again, this issue of views being tied to monetization, that I think all of
Yeah.
these combined create quite a
We
monster.
face it every day in stand up also, that pressure to keep putting out content, which is not our primary thing. Our primary thing is to perform live,
Yeah,
but we are having to run this rat race as well. And then I can't help but think that how people in the journalism space also now have been sort of reduced to being sort of content creators themselves. No? Does it not
yeah.
help even an individual journalist if he has some following online? I think it helps to an extent now, right?
No, it helps in every sphere. I mean,
Mhm.
people can MLA tickets if they have Twitter following. So so
There's a question for you from Akshay Kulkarni. He's saying,
yeah.
if the government changes, would it end misinformation? Of course not, but would you see any change if the incumbent government goes out and a different party comes in?
No, so no, I don't see any change. Firstly, we have to understand that almost all parties are putting out misinformation, but there's a particular
Mm,
brand of misinformation that BJP supporters put out, which is anti-Muslim, anti-minority misinformation. No
mm,
other
mm,
party benefits from anti-minority misinformation. It is BJP who
mm.
politically benefits from anti-minority misinformation. So one
Yeah,
may go to an election podium and say, "Oh, we made so many toilets, we made this," and there could be misinformation. That kind of misinformation could be across party lines. But one thing that BJP supporters and BJP, including our prime minister, who said ki bhais le jayenge, mangal sutra le jayenge, and what not,
yeah, yeah,
that is a particular brand of misinformation which is anti-minority misinformation. So when government changes, there could be a 10, 20, 30% change in that. But and so, see, if government
mm,
changes, it depends on how much conviction the government has. This is a case not just of misinformation. For example, if government changes, are they going to roll back the UAPA law, which where an individual can be, sort of,
yeah,
because of which Umar, etc., in jail. Uh,
yeah.
Now, are they going to roll that back? So, the question of what will happen when the government changes is a wide-ranging question across multiple policies. There are so many laws which have been brought in which need rolling back. Will the government roll it back? We don't know. If we go by evidence of the past, we have seen that political parties, when they come into power, even if they protest when they are in opposition, they just continue with the same policy, same laws, and just keep making it more draconian.
Yeah.
Now this is also the time that we have gone very, very draconian. So is this going to be an exception that if and when the government changes, they are going to roll it
Will they
back?
dial
It
it
is.
back a bit? Yeah.
Yeah, will they die? We don't know, but at least the evidence of the past says that almost nothing gets rolled back.
Yeah, like we had Tada, it's called something else now. Then again,
Yeah,
the name at West might change
yeah,
because these are all levers to have and corner more power, which is what all the parties want.
Yeah,
These are a lot of people on the right don't get it that the fight against establishment never ends.
yeah,
So and I'm sure now you're past way past that stage where people call you random stuff from Congressy to leftist. It just is pointless, but they just don't get
uh,
it that the fight is against power concentration, not against
yeah,
party A or party
and
B.
not against any party. For example, just yesterday we put out a story. There was multiple TMC senior leaders put out a
Mm.
video claiming that look, this is a video of a girl dancing at a RGKar BJP protest, but it was a video
Yeah,
of a mela. And we put out
yeah,
that story, and we were the first to put out the story because
yeah,
the point is not to target any particular party. BJP supporters feel that we are targeting them because they produce the most amount of misinformation.
yeah.
There's nothing that we can do about that, but the point is to create more critical thought in the society, and that is what alt news is focused at. That if we continue going down this path where we as a society we have to figure out how to think about information, know that information that we live in
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
and in an era where the information ecosystem that we live in is highly corrupt, is highly vulnerable, and that we have to be careful at every point in time, as careful as when you're on a busy road, and when you're crossing the road, you're looking at both sides saying ki uda to nahi ud to nahi jayenge. Similarly, on the internet highway,
Hmm.
you have to be as careful
Yeah.
that that it is a highly corrupt information ecosystem.
There's one more question for you, which I'm sure you get a lot. Shivam Sharma is asking from the US, I think. He said, Pratik sir, kindly clarify all new donations by NRIs. Can Indian citizen with NRI, NRO accounts donate? Thank you and more power to your team.
ये एनआरओ एनआरई में मैं बहुत कंफ्यूज्ड हूँ
Uh,
मैं शिवम इफ यू कैन राइट मी एन ईमेल at
uh,
pratik@altnews.in, then
hmm,
I will respond to you. But at this point of time, even what I want to say is that no payment platforms like Razor, etc., they are not taking international donations at all. Even if you're an Indian citizen, they're not taking international donations. That is what I have been told by the people we are working with in terms of Razor Pay and Dana Mojo, etc. So right now, the कोई international donation नहीं काम कर रहा है, but we are trying to figure out other ways where international people who live outside India can contribute.
this is a recent development, right? The fact that you cannot take any at all donations. They sure there can be a cap on it, but or
No,
is
no,
it like
this is
because
not
you're
a legal thing. This is not a
yeah,
legal thing. I think platforms are just too afraid because of this FCRA, non-FCRA, this whole thing. It is not that
yeah,
Indian citizens living outside India can donate uh, to non-profits in India, but it's just that the payment platforms have disabled that for the time being because they don't want to get into any hassle.
wow, it really works. No scare tactics really work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. If you could write an email, it would be great. Shivam, could you spell out the email again? I'll just type it out in the chat.
Pratik, Pratik at altnews.in. My email address is also there in my Twitter profile.
All right. Uh, one more question from Nan, who is one of our regulars. He says, with the advent of AI, where do you see the future of misinformation? Do you think the fact-checking organizations would have the tools to counter it? It's a great question. I,
So the issue of AI is multifold. I'm speaking from having worked as a software engineer for 15 years and
Hmm,
looking at the area of misinformation. So the kind of deepfakes that are coming out are scary. But I want to point out two things. Number one, 2024 elections was we were thinking that deepfake is going to be a
yeah,
huge issue. It was not
yeah,
a huge issue.
yeah, yeah.
My reading of that is because misinformation works in a context. So that is, let's say, if you take a political leader who's giving a speech, and it is there are people around him, they are speaking to an audience,
Hmm.
and if you clip that video, that kind of misinformation is far more effective than a manufactured deep
Totally
fake
fake
video,
video.
totally
Yeah.
fake video, because it looks real. So it has to look that kind of real uh,
Mhm.
for, I think, deepfake misinformation, political misinformation to be effective. But deepfake, for example, is being used massively in frauds where audio is being cloned and people are being called.
Yeah.
So for financial scams, deepfake audio is being widely used. in the porn industry, deepfake is being widely used, where women's faces are being morphed on.
Yeah.
So that kind of issue is there. In terms of its usefulness, also, see, India is not a country which reads a lot, but I'm guessing that creating content using Chat GPT and putting it out online, which has elements of disinformation, just because Chat GPT is inaccurate very often, and using that to create content for websites
Hmm.
will have an element of disinformation. But in India, other than few websites, there aren't really. I mean, the websites which are there, which have routinely put out misinformation, like Op India, etc. They,
Hmm.
I don't think. I mean, they sound like Chat GPT, but I don't think they're using Chat GPT. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
but uh, but because India doesn't read much, so most of the misinformation is in terms of visual, images, videos, etc.
It's also funny. WhatsApp though is like a black hole, and you'll never know the depths of it because election time, especially the kind of volumes that are being pumped, of misinformation on WhatsApp. I think by the time you guys see it, is already done his course on WhatsApp across the internet. I think.
Say that again. Actually, I want to finish responding
Yeah.
to the last question, and we'll come to
Huh.
this.
Huh.
And AI, in terms of using AI to debunk misinformation, I think that was the original question.
Hmm.
At this point of time, we're not using any specific tools. So, for example, we observe certain things, like, is there an extra finger? It does something look out of place, and those are the kind of observations we are attempting to use to
Hmm.
differentiate between what is deepfake, what is not deepfake. Um, at this, I'm sure, see, the thing is that AI is also a bit of a buzzword, right? So for
Yeah.
example, the most prominent issue in the area of disinformation is old videos and old images being presented as something that is happening right now. And so for example, let's say, how do we debunk it? We'll say, oh, this video was found, is on Facebook in 2024, but it was already there on in Facebook in 2017. now
Hmm.
now the thing is that you don't, as I said, AI is a buzzword. Machine learning, etc., from which AI sits on, it has already had the capability for the longest time to know that, oh, this video has already been there on Facebook. So Facebook, that this image is already there. And platforms a very long time ago could have already implemented these solutions, that, oh, the video that you're looking at was originally posted on a platform on 27th February
Yeah.
2017. Okay, just so much, you don't need a fact checker for that. It is a
Yeah.
fact that it was already there on their platform. And these measures could have been taken a long time ago, but they have chosen not to take these measures. So in terms of using machine learning, etc., to implement solutions, especially at a platform level, has been possible for a very long time and has not been done.
Yeah, because it seems that they simply want the volumes. It's
Yeah.
just one track, right? Volumes and profits. That's all.
Yeah, because the more volume you create, the more people watch it, the more ads you watch, and the more the money they make. Again,
Yeah.
the unfortunate sort of views married to views directly proportional to monetization formula, which is taking the world down bit by bit.
Does it ever like get to you the immensity of the task at hand? Because it seems like there's a black hole of information and misinformation that we are sinking in, and you are knocking it down one at a time. But it seems like it's like a mountain being chopped with a pickaxe. No?
Yeah, it is a enormous issue, but I think there's a other way of looking at problems,
Hmm.
that you or that you divide the problem into smaller and smaller parts. The thing is that my understanding today of what the information ecosystem is, and me being able to talk this way, I could not do have done it 3 years ago, because we have
Hmm.
worked at it, bit by bit, and our understanding has improved enormously. So the point is to start working at it. Yes, the problems, every problem is enormous. I mean, if you remember, in the 90s, how big the problem of HIV AIDS was, and
Hmm.
every each, it was such a scary issue. But the thing is
Yeah.
that at that point of time, so many public service announcements came, ads came, condom ads
Yeah.
came, and now the issue is not as much. So,
Mm.
especially when we saw that the system got involved, it could solve the issue. The problem here is that the system does not want to get involved because the system is benefiting from the
Yeah.
issue. But yes, the issue is enormous, but it's just that you have to keep at it, because then you understand more. You solve one problem, you go to the next problem, you solve one problem, you go to the next problem. Your
Yeah.
understanding of the system improves, and I think, yeah, and eventually, hopefully, the system will wake up one day and say, oh, we do need to deal with this issue.
And like you said, some people are predicting that this election will be an AI kind of election, but it didn't happen. Not to the
Yeah,
extent that we thought it would. That-
no, not at all. It did not
Yeah.
happen. There was one
Yeah.
Karunanidhi video where he's speaking, and nobody is thinking that Karunanidhi has risen from the ashes. It's nobody is believing that. So I don't even consider that as
Yeah.
disinformation. It's just a new
Yeah.
form of propaganda. There were
Yeah.
one or two images here and there. So in terms of the total volume of disinformation which was AI generated, it was negligible.
Negligible.
So
Mm. There's a question for you from Hamisha who's saying, hi Pratik, a slightly different question. What do you do to unwind? Any hobbies or things to do? From all the heavy stuff that we already spoken about.
usual stuff, you drink and what you do all of that. Yeah,
Um, for your
you
team,
sit with friends, you yap, and you do all of that. You travel. Yeah, nothing
uh,
different from others.
for your team, like, do you have some sort of program in place where, because like you said, they're seeing a lot of violence and trauma every day, and इधर हम लोग हर बार बात करते हैं स्क्रीन टाइम कम करना, आपका तो
Yeah.
टाइम काम ही स्क्रीन टाइम वाला है, तो
Uh,
हाउ डू यू डिटैच लाइक?
no, so you have to find your own ways to detach. I am able to detach now. At one point of time, I stopped looking at my phone and all of that. So you have to find your own ways to detach. Your own digital hygiene you have to figure out, and that is to have a real life beyond this. So definitely.
You mentioned that you're not that active on Twitter anymore, so you're not looking like to take that kind of a front seat anymore. You're more into the editorial and the say the process of the whole organization. Like while Zubair is more out there, right, in the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, Zubair is more out there in the public. When I say I'm not active on Twitter, it's not that I'm not on Twitter. I'm reading a
Hmm.
lot. I'm just not posting
Okay,
a lot.
okay,
I'm reading everything, and that is part of the job. But I'm not posting. But Zubair's screen time is probably two times as what mine
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And yeah, and but I'm also doing more on the back end in terms of different. When you're running an organization, there are 10,000 things to do, from admin to this and that.
Hmm.
So yeah, so all of that. Like last month, we moved to a new office in Kolkata, so I was running behind plumbers and carpenters and all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
all of that as well.
Dr. Hansikar is saying in response to your earlier reply that this means you're a supporter of Gandhinagar Gift City. For the drinking part, I'm assuming.
I spend a lot of time in Kolkata these days,
Acha.
so that's where the yeah.
Okay. So the offices are Kolkata, Ahmedabad, is it now? And Zubair operates from Bangalore, is it?
Zubair is in Bangalore. Yeah, I divide my time between Kolkata and Ahmedabad.
Okay. Uh, is there a particular breed of people you see who apply to you for work? Like, are they journalists largely? Are they people who really want to make a difference? Or are they subject matter experts who treat it just as another job?
So most of the people who come into alt news, they start off as interns, and then eventually, we
Hmm.
absorb them in. The people from, so for example, the two three youngest people, one person studied statistics, another person studied engineering. So people come, but there are people who also studied journalism. So people come from all domains. The thing is that to do journalism, you don't have to study journalism, right? You need to have that instinct. I have also learned on the job. I did not have a journalism
Hmm.
degree, but
Hmm.
I'm not, so for example, I cannot go and, let's say, edit a business periodical. I have no knowledge to be able to do that. But for example, if I have to edit a technological periodical, then I can do that. So
Hmm.
so it is also about knowing that subject which you are working in, uh, and yeah.
Okay. I guess people like us from the outside who look at your work, no, we have a very heroic image of you, which is no, it comes from the right place. But of course, like you said, daily work involves कि पाइप लगाने का है ऑफिस में,
uh,
no, and intern को onboard करना वगैरह. But
नहीं,
I
पूरा
guess the
organization चलाना, no, but that is also the fun, a very interesting part of sort of learning of how to run an organization, from ensuring that salaries come every month to all of that,
uh, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
One of our users, Info Globe, has said, "Great work, Pratik, to you and Zubair bhai. One, your legends who gave India a sense of fake news and digital investigation." Which is very
Thanks.
right, no, because I'm sure now there are other websites who do it, but you guys are at the forefront now. Uh, I can think of one or two other names, but other than that, does anyone else do it full time, like debunking fake
No,
news?
there are many websites which are doing it full time in India right now.
Okay.
What sets us apart is that most of the websites are being funded by Facebook, to do the fact checking. So they are Facebook partners, and Facebook gives them money. And we are not. We have chosen not to go down that path because we think there is an inherent conflict of interest. That is,
Hmm.
we believe that the platforms are equally responsible for the corrupt information ecosystem that we are in. So,
Hmm.
if fact checkers are thought of as the police or the kotwal, then in the accused list, there's both the platforms, as well as the ones who are creating disinformation. So then one accused is paying the kotwal to say go investigate the other accused. It
Yeah.
it is like that. So that is, so for example, I think there are some organizations which are doing very good work. Like I feel Boom Live does very good work.
Boom live. Yeah.
Quint also does
Yeah.
good work. But I feel that there's an inherent conflict of interest when you're taking money from Facebook to fact check, because then
Hmm.
when it comes to questioning the platforms, I feel that they are unable to do that, because that is the hand that is feeding them.
Hmm. Hmm. The this one very random super chat which has come from UK, it seems, and it simply says that one packet less of Marlboro Red this time. I guess because he gave us the money instead.
True, true.
It, like you said earlier, that no, you guys will do debunk all kinds of misinformation, and a lot of times it is something that has been propagated against the BJP also. But no, when I follow your work, I see that those don't get as many RTs, no, because the BJP supporters won't amplify your work.
Yeah.
I think it's down to that only, right? Because
Yeah,
why
it's
else
down to
would they?
that.
No?
It's down to
Yeah.
that. And that, no, it will also be, see, the thing is that there is personal opinion, and
Hmm.
there is what you do as an organization. So if you ask my personal opinion, I have never sort of I have always stated that feel that BJP's politics is not good for the country. So now
Yeah.
that personal opinion, I'm sure, comes out, it does come out in my various utterings. So then I also have a
Hmm.
particular kind of following.
Yeah.
And so does Zubair.
Yeah.
um, but and so that is also a reason why probably the tweet, when we do articles which say that, oh, this is misinformation against BJP, it they don't get as many RTs. But the difference here is that as an individual, I can hold an opinion, but as an organization, the work is about debunking misinformation. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter which quarter it comes from.
And all that is hard coded into the policies and the trainings for the people who come in. It has to be part
Yes,
of the structure of the organization.
yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. There's a question for you which says from Dr. Hansikar again. What do you think of BBC I and the little focus on India? Because I would say alt news doesn't have that ecosystem of questions, literally gun-led militant on the ground. Okay, I'm not sure what the question is, but BBC I mean, he's comparing you to an actual full news
Hmm.
organization, right? We don't have feet on the ground, right? We are more
we
into research.
we have feet on the ground when we need it. For example, when
Mm.
uh, a certain newspaper said that in Prayagraj, the number of deaths we saw on COVID happen every year. So then we sent someone and we interviewed various pandas.
Hmm.
We also connect with journalists across the country to sort of, to understand the issue. So, for example, tomorrow we see that the Assam issue is going to blow up.
Hmm.
So tomorrow, an expert from Assam is going to speak with the team before this, even before we know that it's going to blow up. So tomorrow, someone is going to speak with the team at 6 p.m. and tell them what how to sort of look at it from a context point of view. So
Hmm.
we also do that. That is, somewhat thinking about it, anticipating that, oh, this is going to blow up, and trying to understand the issue and connect with people on the ground as and when needed. But what we don't have is dedicated people on the ground. So, to come BBCI, probably, because I saw an investigative piece by BBC Africa, actually, which was mind blowing. But
Hmm.
that needed a kind of sort of infrastructure which we do not possess.
Yeah. Yeah. You think in regional languages also there is like a huge underbelly of misinformation which we don't even like comprehend because we largely look at English and Hindi maybe as the national narrative.
So misinformation is language agnostic. If you so again, let's say if
Mm.
you this particular doctor was involved in killing this victim in Ajikar.
Mm.
Now that is going to get translated into every language,
Mm.
and
Mm.
will we put out, and there are content creators in every language, and in every language they will put out this misinformation. So at least
Mm.
political misinformation, medical misinformation, all of this is language agnostic. What I'm also saying is that if we debunk, so we also follow a copyleft license. That is, anyone can take alt news content, and we follow a CCSA. We just need attribution. You don't have to pay us. You take
Yeah.
our content. You want to create a fact checking video in your language, please go ahead and do it. We don't charge
Mm.
anything for our content. All we
Yeah.
ask is that you attribute that
Attributors.
you took this from alt news. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but let's say if we are debunking one strand of misinformation, then we are actually debunking it in multiple languages. People just have to take our content. People are already doing that. People take our content and create their own content in other languages. And they have, someone has a YouTube channel, someone is doing it as part of Instagram, infographics, and all of that. But
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
debunk one strand of misinformation, you're actually debunking misinformation across languages.
Across languages.
The other kind of misinformation, there is hyperlocal misinformation. I'm not saying that there's
Mm.
no, there is, uh, and but which is, for example, if there's an exam, then there'll be misinformation around a local exam.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that kind of hyperlocal misinformation is there, which unfortunately we almost never end up debunking. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Like the Sadhu's lynching case was so immediate and
Hmm.
so local that I mean it
Yeah.
is just WhatsApp largely. Like,
No, that is actually a chain of misinformation which led to the sadhus lynching. That was
yeah.
a chain of you're actually debunking it. It's just that we were not reaching people. The child kidnapping rumors. It is the
Yeah.
sadhus, which became sort of the big issue in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
That was actually, the investigation showed that it was linked to child kidnapping rumors, where they were mistaken as child kidnappers, and that child kidnapping, that that those were 24 months. I think 30-40 people across India were killed by mobs
Hmm.
suspecting them to be child kidnappers.
Hmm. Okay. As someone who's lived in Gujarat, tell us what is the state of the local media? There are local news channels and newspapers. Are they able to report independently? Because I do see from time to time clips and articles of them criticizing the local government bodies, the municipalities, वगैरह. Or are they largely compliant?
I feel that Gujarati news channels and TV channels do a pretty good job at reporting local issues. They do a fairly good job at reporting local issues. uh, Danik, uh,
Hmm.
Divya Bhaskar, which is the Gujarati
Divya
version of
Bhaskar.
Danik
Hmm.
Bhaskar, and
Hmm.
Gujarat Samachar, for example, did a very good job at questioning the government during COVID
Yeah.
and all of that. It is, I think, it's around elections that that they change a little, or change quite a bit, not just a little, where they become very much who's giving them money kind of a
Hmm.
publication. But between those times, I think that they do a fairly good job at questioning at least putting out people's issues out in the front.
Okay. So on the very local issues, ki અહીંયા પાણી ભરાઈ ગયું છે, that will come. But
હા, પાણી
the
ભરાઈ ગયું છે, રસ્તો તૂટી ગયો છે, અને
huh.
એ બધું આવશે, પણ on, yeah,
On the larger issues, they seem to be compliant largely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there is one question I wanted to ask you, and it's been echoed in the comments also about information literacy. So, while it's great to see the work that you guys are doing, and also, like I said, you're learning on the job, over the years, what you're
Yeah.
able to say right now, you wouldn't have been able to a few years back. How does the common citizen sort of be, aware and awake about how we, and not just news and no political, any information, because we are drowning in information, and lot of it or most of it is very leveraged information, or it has a it has a ulterior motive. It could be something like selling you stuff to anything else. Then how does a common person keep his or her guard up?
It is through media literacy. Information, I call it actually information literacy, because it is more than, every piece of information that we receive, it triggers emotionally, triggers us emotionally in a
Hmm.
certain way and leads to certain actions. Um, but yes, the actually fact checking is only one tiny part of the fight against misinformation. What the other countries are doing and what we ought to be doing is
Hmm.
creating information and media literacy curriculums for schools,
Hmm.
where uh, children as young as class 6, I would say, we have to start from class 5, class 6. I have spoken with very young children who have access to internet and are consuming content which their parents are unaware of, uh,
Hmm.
and so the information as a subject has to be introduced in the Indian curriculum, and it has to start from class 5, class 6. That is how, if you study for 6, 7, 8, 9, and that is how by the time you're done with 9th standard and you get into 10th standard, after which you just want to, figure what you want to do with the rest of your life, you already
Yeah.
have a fair understanding of how to look at the world of information. And this is being done in multiple Scandinavian countries. But again, as
Hmm.
I said, this is a systemic issue. What we are facing today is a systemic issue, and till the time the system does not decide to deal with it, we are in a soup.
But system currently seems to be benefiting from it more than anything. So
Yeah.
there is very little will to do it unless there's some big action behind. I don't know who will do it, whether it'll be like a mass movement तो नहीं होने वाला इसके अंदर. People are too happy living in their own silos.
देखते हैं, हो सकता है एक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट शुरू करेगा, फिर दूसरा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट,
Yeah.
कहीं कुछ हो सकता है, देखते हैं.
Wasn't there news that Kerala had introduced something of the sort in schools? Might be a pilot, but there was news I remember of Kerala introducing something like this.
There recently also there was an article which told they are teaching something in fifth standard and seventh standard, if I'm not wrong. But I looked at what they're teaching and I felt that it was just the skills that they're teaching. This needs sort of a mindset change. That is, you teach them how to think about information, how
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
differentiate between what is fact, what is opinion, how to look at information in its constituent parts. What are biases, what are stereotypes. So I feel that the curriculum has to start from much more basic, as opposed to do Google search to find this. That is just a skill. You come to the skill much later. You know the
Hmm. Hmm.
you have to do the essentials of what comprises information and how to look at information before you come to how to the skills part.
You think at any point you guys could put a module out for people which is no not specific to India or no a political space, but in general, like you said, how to treat information. It could be a small docket as well. I'm sure enough people would want to
We are
read that
working
paper.
on it. We are working on it.
It's there in your plans already.
Yeah, it is
All
in the
right.
works. It is in the works.
All right, great to know. You guys have also been awarded abroad under many categories, and when you go abroad and you meet journalists from abroad who are in a similar space, uh, what do you think they're doing differently, or are the challenges also very different in India, so you can't really compare to the work we are doing here?
Firstly, we don't have any international awards. We actually have very little awards. There are no awards basically. But and
Oh,
Zubair can't even travel because his passport
okay.
has been taken, and I don't
Mhm.
travel that much. I so yeah, it is. I don't see benefit in traveling, especially to European countries or the US, because they don't even see what the issue here is. So I mean,
Mm.
when I keep talking about platforms, so why I keep talking about it again and again is that they have no idea what is happening here. So, for example, the Facebook policy where
Mm.
Mark Zuckerberg came on, I think NBC, on said that we Facebook will not fact check politicians because politicians are already overly scrutinized. Uh, Now, this is a person who's sitting in San Francisco and is
Yeah,
deciding the policy for the world without
yeah,
knowing what the world is.
yeah, yeah,
So we also found that, and for example, what Trump says, just yesterday he had tweeted that, oh, we believe in freedom of speech, but according to the laws of the country. Now, the laws of the country itself are taking away freedom of speech. So how can
yeah,
you say, oh, we believe in freedom of speech according to laws of the country? So
yeah,
these are people sitting in privileged places with
yeah,
extreme amounts of privilege who have
yeah,
no understanding of what is happening, and they are creating policies which are impacting the whole world because these have become monopolies. And that is where we also have to question that how the whole economic system which allows such monopolies to be created, where
yeah,
one man one fine day said that, oh, I want to buy a platform, and buys a platform, and see what how much toxicity it has brought. uh,
yeah.
so so we also have to think about how to create information ecosystems which are local. And there's a lot of, I think, we don't think enough about platforms. We think it is necessary to think about
Mm.
people who are creating disinformation, political parties, but it is also important to think about platforms because,
Platform, yeah.
yeah,
I remember the report you guys had done about how Facebook as a channel through multiple accounts beyond the model code of conduct,
yeah,
and it was flagrantly against all the policies of Facebook itself, and
yeah.
yet they kept running, and probably it's because this is the biggest account in India. No? I think it's the biggest ad
Yeah,
spend.
they definitely overlook what is happening here. So some account called Ulta Chashma and some other account, all these
Mm.
clearly accounts which are run by BJP,
Yeah,
or people who are associated with BJP, but none of that goes into the election money. None of those ad spendings are counted. All of that. We also debunked a story during the time of election when there was a video. You remember in UP, this person was shot on live TV. What was his name?
yeah.
Uh,
Ansari, is it? Uh,
Someone, and
yeah.
that video was used in form of a Facebook ad saying that if you vote for BJP, then you know
Oof.
and that was
Yeah,
used as a Facebook ad, and we did that story as well. So there is such flagrant violations which you cannot, if somebody is putting out that ad and Facebook is letting that ad run, then the problem is with Facebook, and not enough people are pointing that out.
yeah, yeah. What do you make of the Telegram guy being mm, imprisoned just 2 days back? Being an engineer yourself, like, how do you see that case?
Uh, so firstly, if Telegram did not cause the mass exodus in Myanmar, it was on
Mm.
Facebook that the Myanmar's military created all these Facebook pages,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
which caused the exodus of Rohingyas.
yeah,
Uh, it was not Telegram. So what is the charges he's arrested on? Uh, Lack of moderation on the platform.
yeah,
Now, Telegram has definitely not caused any kind of a genocide like the Rohingya
yeah,
genocide. So clearly, this is something else at play. Of course, you cannot. We have to bring in policies, etc., to ensure that this does not happen. But it does not constitute a criminal act.
yeah. But they have put some 2024 charges on him, which is including financial fraud, there's pornography, all kinds of things, as if he's implicated himself. But obviously,
Yeah,
that's the tactic to make him bent.
yeah.
Um,
So, for
yeah,
example, we wrote about this article. We wrote about this porn video where it showed penetrative sex between two individuals on Instagram, which had 7 million views. Now, in Instagram, children as young as 12, 13 are using Instagram.
yeah,
7 million views. So, even if you look at 20% of those views coming from underage people,
yeah,
underage children, so then 20% of 7 million views are coming from children as young as 12, 13, 14.
yeah,
And none of and this video was also viral on X, formerly Twitter, but it will not, so this is clearly uh, a specific targeting of
yeah.
the Telegram CEO, because much worse things are happening on other platforms like WhatsApp. For example, we all know what WhatsApp have done to our families.
Yeah, yeah. Infoglobe is saying Facebook also gave us Sahib. So
Yeah,
to add to the tally,
yeah.
in response to your earlier mention of the docket that you're making, Pushpak Pudare said that please don't name it Alt News Toolkit. That's the last.
No, we shall not. Yeah.
uh, After when they went after Zubair, and I'm sure there are a lot of other sort of legalities that you guys are dealing with. Does it become part of your life, or like it is still triggering anytime somebody threatens or sends a notice of some sort?
No, it cannot become a part of life. Yeah, it is just
Mm,
that you figure out how to deal with it.
mm,
Um, and um, so that those 23, 24 days were a huge struggle, but also we figured, we learned the ropes of, the legal system and all that. We already knew a bit because my father used to be a lawyer.
Gee,
So I knew and understand some of it. But again, it is not that we're currently fighting one defamation case, uh, and against the organization there aren't any other cases. There are other ways of troubling, which we have gotten used to know, but it is not that we have many cases against us, or it's not like that.
okay. So it's not like after the initial case with Zubair obviously went on for a long time, and they
Yeah,
really went after him. But then post that, it's not like it's not a regular thing where you keep getting.
yeah.
So then it's clear that a lot of these are very politically motivated, no? Because it's not like individuals, because I see the same in comedy also. Individuals never have the bandwidth to go after somebody and file a case and then follow it up. It's always people with
No,
connections who do it.
not just people with connection. In case of Zubair, it was properly the system going after him. Because
Hmm.
after that whole Nupur Sharma incident,
Yeah.
uh, so this is very coming from right from the top that, oh, go after this guy.
Hmm. Hmm. Uh, I wanted to ask you that over the years there would have been cases where some of your reports have not turned out to be true. So in those
Once,
cases, it was just once over the years.
once,
Yeah.
where one of
Okay.
my colleagues there's my I have a colleague, Priyanka Jha. She looks at every article, and she went to get married, and then one article went wrong. So
Okay, because no, you keep seeing from Op India to say organizer putting out various stories saying 10 times they were wrong, ten
no,
times they, 60 times they lied.
no.
Uh, you reviewed all of those
Yeah, all
over the
news
years.
articles. People may have put out things on their personal social media profiles, but in terms of all news articles, no, we have not gone wrong.
So that's like almost a Six Sigma level of control that you achieved in something which is not engineering per se.
Because it goes to multiple levels of review and
Okay.
editorial reviews. Yeah.
So before the every tweet that even Zubair puts out or any one of the team members puts out, it is gone through a
No, no,
process where
not tweets, not tweets. This is platform. So the
the
all news platform.
articles.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Tweets, so Zubair puts out tweets at 4 a.m. in the morning. So
Uh, there is one comment from Dr. Hunsikar again. He says that children in my Gujarati society they sing out all the Hindutva pop songs on cue.
yeah,
But so this, I think, this is in response to when you're saying that you should teach children about how to tackle information
yeah.
and misinformation. But uska to you can't do anything. This is the culture milieu that you're being brought up in.
Yeah, but still, if you introduce anyone to a different world, which then it is an intrinsic human curiosity to at least go and explore what is this world. So it is an
Mm.
exposure. It may or may not have the intended effect, but to start with is to expose to a different world. It is just about, when you first travel to another country, you like, oh, till then everybody's like, oh, India is this, India is that, and then you go to another country, it's like, oh, the world is different outside, and it is, India may not be the same as what you've been told, and write an essay, 10-line essay why India is the greatest country in the world. So
Yeah.
exposure to newer worlds, newer knowledge systems is very important.
This is one thing that I've been thinking of a lot. Like, how do all the big right-wing trolls survive after being proven wrong on a daily basis? Like, don't their followers no, lose faith, or they are way beyond that in how madly they are in love with their ideology or whatever it is that they're following?
They also get validation. Like Nirmala Sitharaman calls and says, "Come sit next to me. My budget, has not been well
Mm,
received. So please go and say nice things about it." Uh,
mm,
so there are
mm,
people who put out misinformation, go and are invited to the prime minister's swearing in ceremony. So they also get validation from that point of view. They also make a lot of money. We should not forget the financial aspect of it. All of
mm,
all of them make tons of money from direct and indirect sources.
mm,
Uh, and in their social surroundings, they get validation that, oh, this, I'm sure this happens, that oh, this is a war, this is a cultural war, and
mm,
and it is okay to do that, you know. Uh, so
mm.
so I'm sure that kind of talk also happens in those circles, that, oh, it is okay to do that.
So them, the immediate circles and the plethora of followers who are also in the comments to your tweets also, they are past that stage of right or wrong. They just want their party to win because they've been scared enough into thinking that they are in an existential war.
Yeah, that they are in an existential war and anything is okay, and which is where you can get them to a point where and of course we have shifted from a 2014 to 2019 was an era of misinformation. 19 to 24 was an era of misinformation and hate speech, enormous amounts of hate speech, which was
Mm,
not there
mm,
as much in 2014 to 19.
mm,
And they have also been radicalized. 2019-24 was also a time when bully bhai happened, where young children sitting across India on their laptops during COVID are trying to auction Muslim women. So the radicalization is now at that level.
mm.
So of course, when you get radicalized, then your sense of reality really goes for a toss, or sense of right or wrong really goes for a toss.
It's very scary because in the face of look very clearly when something has been debunked and you still either believe it or you choose to overlook it. It's like almost like a point of no return beyond that point.
No, it's beyond that. You actually, in many cases, many of those cases, they know it is wrong, and
They
yet
still do it.
it is not. They think that it is necessary, that it is okay to demonize a whole
Hmm.
community, and that they will do it repeatedly in a most organized fashion, because it is okay to do that, because this is a war, existential war. This is a war they are fighting for their survival, because that is what they have begun to believe. Many.
And like you said, the hate speech has crescendoed in the last few years, including this
Yeah.
election, and the mandate is not really being what they expected. You think they still double down on this model, or you see them pulling back a bit?
No, so there's two levels, right? When the prime minister goes and says that, all kind of things, he said that is strategic in nature.
Yeah.
Uh, but what we see on social media is the core belief of that person when they say something on social media.
Hmm.
So as electoral strategy, they probably may think that, oh, the electoral strategy hasn't worked. That is, just this complete anti-Muslim plank I hope they realize, uh,
Yeah.
and they may change tact. And I feel that it may already been happening, but the larger society which has been radicalized, that doesn't get undone, right? That is not strategic. That is the real effect that the politics
Hmm.
of the country has had on people, and that does not get reversed that way.
It's not going away
Yeah.
easily. Yeah, because when you see all the bulldozing incidents, and you feel that how can something so medieval be happening and increasing? and it has become the law. No,
Yeah.
and there's no so moto cognizance, nothing about.
Nothing. Yeah. So of course there's a complete control on institutions as well, or rather, whether it is ED, CBI, the judiciary is not doing what it's supposed to do.
There's one question from Hamza, which I think sort of echoes what you said earlier, that everything is built into numbers and views. So she says, that how can you decouple journalism from this chasing eyeballs? You can't, right? Because the model is based on reach.
Yeah. The model, the platforms who stand between the creator and the audience, their model is you get the views, you get the money. That is the only way to reach the audience.
Yeah,
I'll again sort of say that we live in a world of monopolies. YouTube is a monopoly, Facebook is a monopoly, or Instagram is a monopoly. We live in a world of monopolies where you have very little options to reach the audience. You have no choice but to be on YouTube, and then YouTube has a certain model, Facebook has a certain model, Instagram has a certain model, and you have to comply by those models because you have no options. We are seeing monopolies. For example, every airport is being given to one particular industry. That is where we are seeing monopolies being constructed. We've had monopolies for a very long
yeah,
time in India, and we see what the effects are. But what in the internet world, it is far bigger. Facebook is worth more than many countries together put together. That
yeah,
is how big Facebook is, Meta is. So so it is, so then when you're living in a world of monopolies, then you just have to play by the rules, and it is very difficult to think of a world beyond that. What do you do, tomorrow?
mm,
uh, you have to create content from YouTube. So that is where we have to start thinking about alternatives. I'm not saying that there isn't an alternative, but we have to start
mm.
thinking about alternatives. We have to start hosting our content on parallel sites. For example, there's a software called PeerTube. Okay, so
Peer
uh,
tube. Okay.
PeerTube, so
Yeah,
which works sort of on a point-to-point basis. So all creators, I believe, should already start hosting their softwares on alternative platforms. And this is also because censorship can happen at any point of time. You
yeah,
can't when you're eventually censored, you can't say that, oh, we are censored, I've
yeah,
lost all my audience.
yeah,
Your audience should already know that, oh, this is an alternative way of accessing a person's content. So
yeah. Because recently we noticed that YouTube is now censoring even the most basic cuss words, which was
mm,
not the case earlier. Now that is not really part of the law of the land. No, law of the land maximum you can say religious sentiments नहीं hurt करना वगैरह. तो
they can
वो
make any policy they want to,
yeah,
whether
yeah,
so which is and their policies, again I'm repeating, is being created not with cultural context. For
yeah,
example, their language models don't understand hate speech that is being propagated in India in all the languages. They don't understand. They may understand hate speech in English, but they definitely don't do well when it comes to hate speech in Indian languages. uh, and so which is why moderation doesn't work, which is why moderation goes wrong, because their models are incomplete.
You think it's simply a matter of even the ability to make a platform that big and that stable, just in pure engineering terms. I'm sure people have tried in the past. One is the volumes that they have achieved through Silicon Valley and through whatever the pedigree is. But is it also a pure matter of coding and infrastructure that nobody beyond the US seems to be able to create these huge platforms that work globally?
No, it is also access to capital, right? That country has a huge access to capital. It is
Hmm.
not that. So, for example, in India now we do have platforms, whether it is Flipkart, whether it is um, Zomato. So there
Ola,
are
yeah,
there
yeah.
are homegrown platforms
Hmm.
which are there, and that is because India now has access to capital. But does Bangladesh have platforms? Does Thailand have platforms? Maybe one or two, but the ability to create platforms at scale is purely an issue of how much capital
Access
they
to
have.
capital. And
Yeah.
if Ku couldn't do it, then it is very difficult.
No, who couldn't do it because no, who couldn't do it because they tried to make firstly a copycat site with no
Yeah.
originality. They tried to, tried to sort of use a nationalistic sentiment ki isse kaam, and two three products came that way which failed, which tried
Mm.
to bank on the hyper nationalistic sentiment that, oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be a successful business model, and they
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah.
So coup failing is not a testimony of, India not being able to create quality products.
And they failed despite all the government accounts shifting there overnight. If you remember, all the
Yeah,
ministries.
yeah.
uh, just take a couple of more questions from the chat.
I have a flight tomorrow at 6:45
Okay.
a.m. So I have
Oh
to.
man. Okay, we shall wrap up with a couple of questions. Jamie, if you missed anything in the chat, then let us know. There are a lot of people here who are our regulars, and they already familiar with your work. And in terms of the contribution that we spoke of earlier, as of now, you said it's only people in India who can contribute, right?
Yes, yes. Only people in India and Indian citizens in India who can contribute.
Indian citizens in India. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So let's say, let's
Uh,
if there's a French journalist who's working in India, they can't contribute.
Okay. I get this a lot whenever I do shows in Gujarat. No, people who are not from Gujarat, they say, "Sir, अरे sir, ध्यान रखना sir, क्यों जा रहे हो आप गुजरात में?" And they have this view of it being
Hmm.
some different country altogether. But day-to-day life continues. No, that is the absurdity of it. That no, despite all the radicalization, people still find a way to coexist day to day.
No, no, of course, I know this is a false demonization of Gujarat has also happened
Hmm.
along with Gujarati food, like and uh, and so no, I mean, yeah, people are working here. I am presently sitting in Ahmedabad
Yeah.
and doing this
Yeah.
stuff. So no, the system works in different way. Like Zubair was not arrested in Gujarat. Zubair was arrested in Delhi. Siddiq Kapur was
Hmm.
arrested in UP. So
Yeah.
sister Umar was arrested in Delhi. So system works in other ways. Yes, in Gujarat, you can't get permission to hold a protest. And that is very very difficult. So you don't hear of protests in Gujarat. So that is a problem with Gujarat, where that we've had a political party since 97, 98. It has not
Yeah.
changed. So anyone
Yeah.
born after 97, 98 does not even know of another political party which was in power. Uh,
Yeah.
so that has certain effect on a state, that has certain because the politics that happened, because the 2002 riots that happened, all
Hmm.
of that has and 2002 was definitely some a moment that shifted many things for the country, and especially
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Gujarat. So all of those things are part of Gujarat, but it is also the fact that Altme started in Gujarat, in a small room in Gujarat. There's
Correct.
critical work that is being done in
Yeah.
Gujarat. Yeah,
Yeah. And your father worked for the longest time under Motabai's government, right?
yeah, yeah, of course.
When he was CM of the state.
Yeah,
Um, I think before we let you go, I must ask you that from where we started initially our talk today, that you see the darkest side of our society on a day-to-day basis. Then how do you still maintain any kind of hope in general in life? Like how do you still manage to see the goodness in people? Of course, there are friends and people around you, but in a larger scheme of things, when you're exposed to that much,
I think family matters. People that surround you matters. That I think that matters the most. But generally, I think that is a just because we also get a lot of appreciation. People are
yeah,
pinching, taking money from their hard-earned money and saying, "Here, go do your work." So
yeah,
we get the best of emails, messages. Someone said that, "Oh, I'm a student. I can only give 10 rupees. When I start earning, I'll give more."
yeah,
So I remember Zubair putting the message of one rickshaw driver. He said, "कि मैं अभी 100 रुपए ही दे सकता हूँ, लेकिन आप काम करते रहिए." So,
hmm,
so we get a lot of appreciation as well. We, I think I think very importantly, we are a good bunch of colleagues that
hmm.
I think we enjoy working together. So I think it's many many little things.
And there's also a lot of outpouring of support when they went after Zubair as well. That
Yeah, yeah,
would
absolutely.
have
So
would have
we get a lot of love, lot of support. Yeah,
To end, there is one super chat from Shom Shubro Chaudhary, who's one of our regulars, and from the UK. He says, "No questions. I just want to send good wishes to both of you." So I
Thank
think
you
that's
so much.
that's
Thank
that's
you.
a
Thank
great
you.
note
Means a lot.
to end today's chat on. Thank you for coming, Pratik. Thank you for coming today, and in general for all the work that you guys do. I really appreciate it because we are commentators, but you guys are on the front line. I feel doing something about things that matter. So thank you for that,
Thank
and
you so much, Puneet, for having me here. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
and hope to meet you in person someday at one of our shows, perhaps.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You shot with camera, right? Recently, that episode is
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
out soon. Yeah.
yeah. It should come out soon. Yeah.
All right. Look forward to that. Thank you. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
being here.
See you.
As we
Bye
see you
bye.
guys next week. Bye
Bye bye.
bye. Jamie, if you're there, सो गया क्या?
नहीं नहीं
हाँ,
कर दिया